Welcome to the Rankings Podcast, where we feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and elite personal injury attorneys and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Chris Stryer here, president and founder of Rankings.io, where we help elite personal injury attorneys dominate first page rankings. You're listening to the Rankings Podcast, where I feature innovative business owners and, of course, elite personal injury attorneys. I'm excited to have Ed Herman on the show today. Ed is the managing partner of Brown Crouppen, a prominent law firm headquartered in St. Louis with offices throughout Missouri and Illinois. He is a recipient of countless legal and professional awards, as well as an Emmy award-winning host of Brown Crouppen's own YouTube series, Ed Versus. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's a St. Louis native. I'm super excited to have you on the show.
Well, that's cool.
So let's just dive right in. I think it's extremely important for our audience that we talk about branding. Some attorneys just focus on direct marketing, bottom of the funnel marketing. What's your take on branding strategies to get exposure for your firm and yourself?
Well, to me, there's two stages of branding. There's brand awareness, and then there's brand love. Whether they've heard of you, and then whether they've formed an opinion of you. So a lot of people think of branding as just about getting people to know your name, and that's the first part. That's the very top of the funnel. So when you think about certain marketing efforts, things like, say, billboards, you blanket a city with billboards, that's going to get your name out there. They see your name over and over. Maybe they see your number over and over, depending on what you're trying to brand, but they don't really develop much of an opinion of you. Whereas then there's, as we talk toward the middle of the funnel, I know we're going to talk about the channel. The channel is really about developing an opinion around your brand. And that's where the brand love comes in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people miss that. But, I've heard people say they like to do business with who they know, like, and trust.
Right. And those are all forms of love. Trust is a form of love. Liking somebody, relating to somebody, feeling somebody is approachable, feeling somebody is competent. These are all things that fall under that umbrella of opinions about your brand. And that's brand love.
Absolutely. I think one of the things our audience really struggles with is they can't quite wrap their head around measuring ROI from the awareness type of marketing.
Sure.
So what are some things that you look at to measure the success of, say, a billboard campaign or a bus wrap?
Well, you got to think about what the goal of each type of marketing is. If people sit there and believe that the goal of marketing is solely the end result, how many cases did you get from it? If that's what people were using as the only measure, first of all, it's almost impossible to do a complete attribution of that. But if that were really the case, nobody would ever do something like billboard. Billboard, it does not, would if you were just looking at how many of your clients or customers said, I signed up with you because I loved your billboard, because I saw your billboard, it would never justify its expense. And yet, if you were to, instead of measuring billboards by how many cases you got, you measure it by how many of your clients were familiar with your billboards? How many of them had been exposed to your billboards, were aware of your billboards? It's an awareness play. It's this whole idea of a person needs to be touched by you a certain number of times before you're kind of cemented into the top of their mind. And if you're able to sort of go into a market where you've had no billboards and do some surveying about how aware people are of your brand, and then go into a market where you've done heavy billboards, and then ask the same questions. We just had some brand research done. And when they're doing brand research, they'll do something called unaided recall, and then they'll do something called aided recall. Unaided recall would be something like this. They ask a group of people, say from St. Louis or Kansas City, without any prompting. They'll say, make a list of all of the law firms that you could think of off the top of your head, okay? That's unaided recall. And, some of them will write down Brown Crouppen. I can tell you that 100% of them in 4 different focus groups done wrote down Brown Crouppen. And then aided recall is when they'll give you like a list of firms, and they'll say, mark off whichever of these firms you've ever heard of. And obviously, if we're 100% unaided, we're 100% aided. But you can also see our competition, will take a jump. They won't, their name is not right on the top of your head. But if you prompt them and say, well, have you ever heard of so-and-so? They'll say, oh, yeah, I've heard of so-and-so. And those are the kind of things you have to do to measure the effectiveness of your branding campaigns.
I love that. And that's really smart. I hadn't heard of the aided, the aided review, the unaided review, but that's an excellent way to measure the success of the campaign. And it's more than that too. It's looking at just all the brand initiatives, the traditional marketing type tactics too.
Right. Well, and especially in personal injury law, consider this. At any given moment, a tiny, tiny percentage of the population that you're paying to put your marketing in front of actually needs your services at that time. It's a little different. If you're McDonald's and if you want to push quarter pounders, you can put up billboards with delicious looking quarter pounders. You can have commercials featuring the quarter pounder, and then you could look right at your sales of quarter pounders. Did my sales of quarter pounders go up? And you can get an immediate answer as to whether things worked. But in personal injury law, you can have a large population of people out there. They know you. They love you. In their mind, they've already committed to the idea that if I ever need a lawyer, this is who I'm calling. But if those people never need a lawyer, you never find out just how effective your marketing truly was. You could have a beloved public who never gets into an accident. So that's good for them, but it makes it hard to measure the effectiveness of your advertising. So if you know that better than 99% of your audience doesn't need you today, you got to ask yourself, what's the right message for them? Are you better off? And you can tell them, we're going to get you justice, we're going to get you money. But I don't know that message resonates with people who don't have an existing case. Those are good messages for people who were just in an accident. That's maybe what they need to hear because they're dealing with it right now. But what message does everybody else need to hear? And, in my opinion, the message that I like everybody else to have is, I like these guys. I think they're smart. I think they're funny. I think they're likable, approachable, competent. I want to just leave an impression, want to be memorable. That's all you can do with a person that doesn't need you today.
I 100% agree. And I see it many, many times, particularly on Facebook. We'll see a law firm's website page, their Facebook page, and it's nothing but these FAQs, all these articles about auto accidents. If I'm a consumer, I'm not wanting to see that in my feed. If I'm in an accident, sure. But, but if I'm not, I just unfollow it.
Well, I think all of that information is very important to have on your website, because I do think that people that have been in an accident are going to do searches looking for just those type of answers. But putting that out as content to the general public, why would 99% of the people right now who don't need you really care much about your fees? I mean, there's no fees since they don't need you, and so these frequently asked questions, unless they're really being targeted to people who have done some type of search that leads you to believe that they do need an attorney, or somebody in their family needs an attorney. I think those are great things to pop up if somebody's done a search of how much does a personal injury attorney cost, or who would be the best person to hire for my sister's case. Boom. That's when those things, they have a place. They're important. I don't want to have, when somebody does that search, I don't necessarily want to say, oh, let's watch Ed mixing cereals. You have to deliver the right message depending on what the people are doing. But if people are just browsing their Facebook feeds and they come across me mixing cereals or doing any of the other things I do in my videos, that's what's going to get them to stop and watch.
I 100% agree. The intent's different. The intent's there when they're searching for those queries, where they're asking questions and to be found on your website. But otherwise, you need to be more likable and have that brand love. So let's talk about Ed Versus. You won an Emmy, but one of the other things I want to mention here is you have over 16,000 subscribers, and some of your videos are getting hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah, they've really crested now into another. They've kind of taken off a little bit more. And we've started to have, those are on YouTube where, you'll see videos. Some of them have now gone over 1 million views on YouTube, which is very hard to do because to count as a view on YouTube, they have to watch for a certain amount of time. But most of my videos have also gotten over 1 million each on Facebook, which is nice. They don't have to watch as long to count as a view on Facebook, but obviously we'll still take what we can get. What was your question?
Yeah, I was just talking about brand love. I mean, when we're talking about advertising, you just talked about it. You have some videos with 1 million.
Listen, because you got to give people something they want to watch. If you can't, and there's a lot of ways to do it. It's not just what I'm doing, but if you think about it, what do people want to see when they're on the internet for pleasure, which is most of what they're doing on the internet's for pleasure. We're all looking for things that either we laugh at, we want to laugh, or we want to be educated. I mean, that's basically what we're doing on there. So it's either we want to be amused or we want to learn something. And if that's our spare time scrolling, that's what we're doing now. Maybe what we want to learn about is what our friends' kids look like, and you can find that out on your Facebook scroll. But basically, you're learning and you're laughing. So the stuff that we put out has got to sort of be leaning toward one of those or the other. So if we're doing something like Ed versus Naps, which was one of the biggest hits we've had, 2.3 million views total. And that's a perfect example of one where you are learning something and you're also laughing. The serial ones, you're learning and you're laughing. Airplanes, the one that won the Emmy out here, you're learning and you're laughing. Elevators has been doing really well. Same idea. And I think that, look, I didn't invent it. I'm just playing to that formula and doing my own version of that.
I 100% agree. In fact, when we had lunch a while back, I went to your YouTube channel. I ended up watching Ed versus The Dark Knight, and it was amazing. It was entertaining. I watched the entire video. So my follow-up question to that is there an Ed versus Tiger King, or is there an Ed versus Zoom video conferencing in the works?
Those have both been suggested lately. Ed versus social distancing, Ed versus Zoom, the conference calls. I'm trapped at home now like everybody else. I'm using a background of a beach, but I'm just sitting in my basement. Usually my stuff is pretty well produced. I may attempt to do something and get some footage on my phone and send it to, the guy who people that help me edit and put something together. I would love to do some right time content like that. I've watched the Tiger King all the way through, and I even watched the bonus feature that they just released like 2 days ago with the Where Are They Now interviews. So I don't know. I mean, those would both be good things to kind of hit on right now. I don't know. I'm always concerned about things that are too in the moment. You capture people right there, but those things don't necessarily have the staying power of the kind of topics I normally do. But who knows? For me, it's not like, I improv all of my stuff. I usually will just hit on a topic that I have a lot of opinions on, and I'll just start jotting down bullet points like in an outline. I've got outlines on several different topics now that I just haven't shot. I have an Ed versus Uber. I have an Ed versus snacks. I have an Ed versus going out to eat. I just haven't filmed any of them. I just keep compiling little bullet points, and then when I feel like I have enough to say on it, I'll go in and film, and I just rant. I don't have anything written out. I like to just go off the top of my head and then craft it in the editing, so that it's very very organic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ed versus it's crushing, but many people don't know this. There's also Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches, very successful and
great show. Yeah.
Great show. And then Terry's Safety Squad. You've got Terry who's singing a musical in the musical episode. He probably never thought he would be doing that.
No, but yeah, that's what's so fun. And that's where you can be creative in your marketing. I guess if I'm looking to give advice to other places, you can take some chances and do some fun things, and don't be afraid to make an impression on people. It's hard nowadays. They're getting bombarded 1 million different channels and streaming services, and they're whipping through their scrolls on Facebook and other social media. They're looking for something different. They're looking for something to get their attention and stand out. And I think sometimes people are afraid to be themselves and show whatever that is. And people are interested in just about everything. if you can make anything interesting, if you're passionate about it, because what people are going to connect with, they're going to connect with authenticity and enthusiasm. So any topic that where you can be authentic, you're speaking about something you actually care about and that you're enthusiastic about, those two qualities will always connect with people. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and people love to see other people talking about something they're passionate about because it inspires them. So, anybody can do that. It doesn't have to be like the kind of stuff that I do. I know people that are like workout nuts, and they take their exercises so seriously, and they take their food so seriously, and they have theories behind everything that they do and why they do it. And I would encourage those people, get those thoughts out there on video. That's just the kind of thing people are looking for gurus everywhere. We're living in a nation where we don't trust elected leaders, and all we really want are gurus. Be a guru, whatever that subject may be.
So that takes me to my next question. So our audience is primarily personal injury attorneys, and there's a personal injury attorney that wants to create a new YouTube series. And, everyone's doing these FAQ videos. Not that they don't have a place. They do have a place for those individuals that have that intent.
Mm-hmm.
So is it more about your unique strengths and finding that your own niche to create it?
Yeah, we've worked with, because Coolfire does our production, and I work closely with Coolfire on every phase of our videos. I sit in, I do the editing with their editors. I work with it, and we actually have worked with other firms to find their voice, their digital voice. And it really boils down to, somebody, it doesn't necessarily have to be the owner of the firm, but it's somebody at the firm who can be genuine and who has an area of interest that they can be truly enthusiastic about. That's why we did 3 Lawyers Eating Sandwiches, because we knew, first of all, people love watching food. Food is porn on the internet. People take pictures of their food, they talk about it, they post the cooking shows, everyone's familiar. You'll get water cooler talk about the Great British Baking Show or Nailed It. I used to watch Chopped or Beating Bobby Flay. There's a ton of these shows. Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. You can just binge that all day. And so we looked at that and said, you know what? We can do a lot with a show like 3 Lawyers Eating Sandwiches, and not just for our business. We can help out businesses that we care about, mom and pops that we care about, that are doing something really great on bread. We go in there and we're authentic. Again, we have no script. We eat lunch together every day, whether they're filming it or not, at least before the quarantine. So, what we tried to do there was be ourselves and be passionate about the food in our city. And those things come out and people watch those shows. They've got 9 million views so far for that series. And for those restaurants, it's been a wonder, because every place that we feature gets a huge jump in business, and they're very appreciative. And I think for other firms, that's my point, is look at your community, look at what makes you special, look at your habits. Think about the stuff that people said to you, that you do it a little differently than everyone else, but whatever it is, whether it's golf tips, whether it's a cool collection that you have that means something to you, whether it's that you like to cook, whatever your thing is, I promise you, if you're authentic and enthusiastic, people will want to watch it.
I love that. I love the aspect of getting the community involved too, because, that restaurant will want to share the video.
Sure.
They'll want to engage too. They want to have their servers, their cooks engage and comment and like.
Right. They'll engage. And also, a lot of food sites. There's a ton of food sites in every community, foodie sites and eat stuff sites and local restaurant stuff. And, we have Sauce Magazine out here in St. Louis. And, you get a group of pretty good local food influencers, and you can get your stuff shared to a really wide audience at no cost. Now, we do obviously put money behind promoting our videos. You have to do that. You got to, at a minimum, chum the waters a little bit, put a little kindling on, and hope that things sort of catch a little organic fire. But, you can't create something that's that you think, well, this is great, it's going to go viral, and it's going to get all these views for no money. You shouldn't think of, if I do it right, the internet's going to give me a bunch of free stuff. Okay. That's not how you should look at marketing on the internet. Marketing on the internet, you should look at it like any of your other marketing. How much money do I have to put behind this to get so many eyeballs to watch my content? And then what you really want to do is you don't want to judge your content simply by views, because you know, if you put enough money behind it and keep it in front of the public, you're going to get views. What you want to judge it by is how people react and engage to it, you know, with it. How many people reacted on Facebook? How many people commented? How many people shared? And then on the comments, you want to respond to the comments and create a dialogue. You know, you can't do that with television. Television, people are barely paying attention to the commercials. The second the commercial goes on, they all turn their eyes to their phone. So you want to be on the phone. That's where you want to be. And you want them to watch your content for as long as possible. So, you know, with YouTube, for example, you get great metrics that they give you. How many people chose to watch your video? How long was the average duration that they watched for? How many people made it through the first 25%, the first 50%, the first 75%? And that's when you really learn about what's working. You know, what are people looking for? How comfortable are they? You know, and how many people will watch something to the end? Don't save your most important information for the end. Really teaches you. You got to hook people at the beginning, catch them with a good laugh or two in the first 15 seconds, and you'll see that the percentage of them that hang on longer, it's a lot higher. And then you get to see the total minutes. I didn't remember the number off the top of my head, but the total minutes that's been watched of our stuff is just, it's hard to even fathom.
There are tons of nuggets there. You know, one of the excuse me, one of the things is, you know, the different algorithms that come into play. So Amazon, it bumps up products that get sold more. They're going to show those more.
Right.
For SEO, it's backlinks, it's content relevancy and things like that. For YouTube, a lot of it's engagement. So those things you're doing, you know, commenting, making sure that they get the likes, the shares, and all of that stuff. It's got to have just a huge impact on their visibility and their reach.
It definitely does. And then when they recommend your video, you know, the more stuff that you've done, you want it to be, you know, connected to subject matters where there's other videos on the same subject. So what happens is, you know, somebody may be watching some video about Batman, and you want them to recommend Ed versus the Dark Knight as, you know, the next video to view. You wind up picking up a lot of views that way. Same with the serial video. The original serial video, and I've done a series of 3 of them. The original one, which we're back to featuring right now, just because I thought during the quarantine, that would be a perfect video. People are trapped in their homes looking for fun activities with their kids. So I thought, you know what, let's bring the serial one back. People can do it. You know, any kid can go in there and feel like a chef just by mixing cereals together. And it's a good activity for parents and children. So I thought, well, let me bring that back. That one, for whatever reason, always does extremely well. Like, it'll go viral anytime we promote it. Anytime we promote it, the number of organic views is insane. People share it and people watch it, and the comments are always higher on that video. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm one of those individuals. I'm not sure how I found your video, but I ended up watching the Ed versus Serial. So, I mean, that's the perfect example. Let's talk about, we talked about tons of tips, tons of strategies individuals can take to get more exposure, to utilize YouTube effectively. Let's talk about some mistakes you've learned or pitfalls when you jumped into YouTube marketing. Or is there some things that you said, oh man, I that was a mistake, I'm not going to do that again? What are some takeaways there?
Well, let's see. That's a good one. You know, all I can say is keep a close eye on what your cost per view is, because it can vary quite a bit with YouTube, and you need somebody who's going to be looking at that all the time. You know, you obviously want to keep the cost as low as possible. You want to make sure that you're always targeting regionally. You know, some people can get really enamored with just the idea of getting a ton of views. So their instinct is, oh, you know what? I'll market this everywhere. You never know who will see it, and it'll spread bigger if we go bigger. Don't do it. You're better off really hyper-focusing your whatever dollars you put behind, just like you would on television. or on billboards. You don't go buying a billboard in some other city just because it has a huge population and a lot of people are going to see it. Who cares if some people in Los Angeles see your billboard? You don't practice there. So you want to really keep it tight. You want to really promote it so that the eyeballs you're getting are as close to the demographic that might actually hire you. And the first step of that is by doing it regionally. So you just want it really promoted to your region, and then drill down as far as they'll let you do it on YouTube, whether they can do it by income level, whether they can do things by ethnicity, whether they can do things by, any demo that you think is your typical demo. That's where you really want to concentrate your dollars. Get the eyeballs of the people that may hire you. Don't start thinking, because this is a common thing. People say, well, do I want to keep going after more of what I already have? Or do I want to branch out into some other pond and start expanding to, a group of people that have never traditionally hired people like us, but maybe they will. And my best advice on that is saturate amongst the people that will actually hire you. You're never going to have a big enough market share, most likely, to get all of that anyway. So I know it seems like, but why do I want to be in the same pond as everyone else going after the same fish when I can go to this other pond and maybe I'll catch something? My experience is you never catch enough in that other pond. There's reasons why the fish in that other pond are not biting for your services. You got to stay in the pond where this is the group of fish that are going to bite my bait. And I'm going to compete with my competitors. I'm going to try to get as much of this pond as possible in my boat.
Ed, I 100% agree. Being an SEO nerd myself, I see a lot of the clients that we work with, they want to expand. So they'll take, maybe they're in, let's say, Atlanta, and they want to go to Los Angeles. And I'm like, whoa. You've got a brand in Atlanta. You need to think about maybe expanding your territory in Atlanta, not jumping all the way over to Los Angeles where they don't know about you.
Yeah, and you know what? I could tell you, my advice to anybody who does want to go into another market, don't try to go from a smaller market to a bigger market. Yeah, you're not ready for that. You're not ready to make the financial investment that's going to take. And even though it seems like it's bigger and there'd be more cases, there's more money spent, there's more competition, and everything is more expensive. If you want to expand, hopefully you have a good home market to begin with. My first step would be try to find a market that's comparable but slightly smaller. That's why when we started in St. Louis, Kansas City was the perfect and natural and logical place to go next. We had other options. We could have gone up and said, well, why not just throw our hat into Chicago? Nice, huge market, plenty of people. We're all licensed in Illinois. We already do a lot of business in Illinois. Why not go after the biggies there? But that when we started doing the analysis of that, it was obvious that really just didn't make a ton of sense for us. I think the ideal is a comparable market, slightly smaller than where you are now. If you want to go into a third market, you do that all over again. The comparable market, slightly smaller, and you just can build up your empire that way. I think if you try to get into a larger market than your home market, I don't think you're ready to take on that challenge. I just don't.
Ed, I think you just saved a lot of our listeners hundreds of thousands of dollars probably with that statement. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. So we've been talking a ton about YouTube, about branding, about everything when it comes to marketing a firm and growth. So, one final question here. Do you have any advice for your fellow lawyers trying to grow a successful practice?
The most important thing, and this is, I know this is not even a question, is you have to turn all of your clients into a strong, loyal group of advocates for your firm. The most valuable commodity you have are the people that are currently using you and the people that have used you in the past. So that means you have to do a great job with their case. You have to care about them. You have to give amazing client service, and you have to keep that relationship going. Never let them out of your circle. That means that you should be, while you're younger and smaller, and you can do this a little bit more easily, you have to be maintaining a relationship with everybody who's come in, and not just the people you helped, even the people that just called you. Think about this. I've talked to many firms about this. There are a couple of big challenges as to why a person will never become a client of yours. Okay. Maybe it's they've never heard of you, so how can they become a client? Or maybe it's they've heard of you, but they would never hire you. Maybe they already know a lawyer and they'd never hire you. They wouldn't even consider it. Anybody who calls your office is already over those two hurdles. They have heard of you. They would use you, right? So think about the value of knowing those two bits of information. You say, well, my God, for this person who called, I already have checked the first two big boxes. The only box that was left was that for whatever reason on that call, they didn't have a matter that I could help them with. But everything else I had. That's gold to know that. That means that every person who calls your office or interacts with you, you need to figure out how you're going to maintain a relationship with them. Even if you turn them down, there's different ways of turning people down. I turn people down all the time, but I explain to them the analysis and why they don't want to go down that road. And they're very grateful that I saved them the heartache of pursuing a matter that may not have ended favorably. And then they trust me because they know I didn't make any money from that. I always tell them, I said, listen, I make money if you have a claim. I have every incentive in the world if you have a valid claim to pursue it for you. And here I am telling you that I don't know that this is going to be worth your effort. And here's why. Those people will trust me for life. So you have to take that list and take it seriously. And you got to be sitting down all the time and think about, how am I going to reach out to them? What am I going to send them? How often am I going to call them? And I mean that, call them. We have teams of people all day long. All they do is call former clients, checking in on them, reminding them that we're still there. We still care about them. We'll tell them about other areas of law that maybe they didn't use us for. Tell them about products that are, got warnings on them or off the market. I mean, you do everything you can to cultivate the database of the people that knew you and were willing to hire you. That's it.
That is pure gold. It's pure gold. And it's staying with that love, staying with the brand love. So guys, we've been talking to Ed Herman, managing partner of Brown Crouppen. Ed, where can listeners go to learn more?
Well, obviously getbc.com is the website, which is a little outdated, but we're having it redone. Still tons of great information on there. But if you really want to be entertained and you want to see what we're talking about with these videos, you want to go to getbctv.com. And you can go through all of our playlists. You can see all the episodes of Ed Versus, Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches, Terry Safety Squad, plus a bunch of our old vintage commercials, which are a lot of fun on there. One year we had William Shatner doing our commercials. I always like to go on there and just see Shatner. He was so good too.
That's awesome.
Brown and Crouppen. Yeah, he was really good. So that's where you want to go for that. Plus, of course, you could follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything but Snapchat. I don't think we're on Snapchat. So
guys, go check them out. You won't be disappointed. Watch some of the videos. You'll really enjoy them. Ed, thanks so much.
Hey, my pleasure. Take care. Stay safe.
Thanks for listening to the Rankings Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.